Nutrition plays a huge part in athletes' performance on and off the ice. Joining me now to talk about how she's keeping athletes healthy is Seanna Thomas. She's the founder of Hockey Snacks. Seanna, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Definitely, this is a very strange time. And I'm looking at it as an opportunity. I'm trying to stay positive. So, we're looking for ways that we can pivot and ways that we can still offer great content to our fans.
So I want to rewind back. I know you have a background in nutrition, a dietitian, and you have that background because that's what your career is. How did you pivot towards offering healthy snacks and workshops to minor league athletes?
Well, it actually started with my son, who I have three kids, and they're all very active. They all play hockey and multiple other sports. And my son was 7 at the time, and I walked into the dressing room. And at the time, we were doing, a parent rotation of snacks, which is really common with minor sports. And it wasn't my week. I was always the buzzkill mom that brought, the homemade muffins and the oranges and stuff like that. But this week was not my week. And I walked in, and this was a 7 a.m. practice, and all the kids were eating Doritos. And, I'm not totally evil. My kids get treats from time to time, but I felt like, we could do better than that. And so I offered to my team to buy all the snacks, make sure they were allergy friendly, made sure that they were healthy for the year. And everybody was on board. And then other teams started to find out I was doing that. So they asked me to do it for them. And eventually I was doing it for the whole league. So I had no intentions really of starting a business at that time, but it just snowballed into what it is now. And with my nutrition background, and I've always worked with kids and families, it just naturally fell into doing workshops and seminars as well because people love the education.
What I really like about it is it's not just providing the product of healthy snacks and packaging them and dropping them off at hockey rinks. You're also holding workshops. So why did you decide to also offer healthy workshops to educate these athletes on, how to eat right, take care of their bodies, while they're training and going further in the sport that they're in?
Well, it was really important to me that they have that education piece. And like I said, it didn't happen that way, like it wasn't beginning that way. I started just with providing the snacks. And then when people started to ask about workshops, I thought, that's a really, really great idea. I wanted to give these kids, as young as 4, real ownership of their own health. And so doing these workshops gave me that platform to be able to tell them and teach them about not only proper nutrition in an age appropriate way, but also to show them this is how you can make a smoothie. These are the ingredients that you need. Here's how you can make energy bites. Here's why they're important. And the kids go home with that information. And it's very simple stuff. I'm not diving deep into the science behind it. I'm just saying, protein can help your muscles if you eat it after you work out. And just keeping it really simple, but this was information they didn't have before. And for these young athletes to have that knowledge and be able to really properly fuel themselves, it gave them this power they never had before. So I absolutely love empowering them with information.
Talk about the parents. What are they saying about the product? And, maybe for them, it's also kind of makes things easier because they don't have to pack the snacks and deal with getting that ready and maybe worry about that too. So how are you sort of making life easier for parents as well?
Oh, absolutely. So parents love the program because not only is it one thing they don't have to add to their list for the week, bringing snacks to the rink or the field. They know that it's going to be healthy. They know it's going to be allergy friendly, which is really important to a lot of parents. But also, having their kids have this information really opened up their eyes because there's so much information out there, and parents can go online and they find lots of conflicting information about what to feed their kids and when. And so to have a nutritionist there to tell them, here's the basics, here's why, and here's how to make it really easy on you, because all of our schedules are so crazy busy. Being able to tell them, okay, have these 4 things in the fridge at all times, and your kids can make their own smoothie. It really makes a huge difference in their life that when their kids have can take that ownership of their own health.
You know, when we look at representation in sports, sometimes I go to speaking engagements and people will say, well, I never knew a woman could, own her own company in sport, or as you say, segue into doing something in hockey because you're related to it or your kids play. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I mean, I have two boys and a girl, and they all play hockey. They all play all sports. And it's very important to me that there be gender equality in these things. And so, not only for playing sports, but in the business world as well. So, for me to own my own business, run my own company, I'm very proud of that. And I show my kids every day, how hard I work, and that I work, their dad works. There is no difference, and they don't see a difference. Just like when my daughter goes to the rink, she has the same practices, the same games that the boys have. And it is what it is, And so I think being an example to them is number one in my books.
You touched on being a business owner, and we know sometimes it comes with challenges. So, can you touch on that for anybody who is maybe thinking of launching their own business in sport? What have you seen? What are some of the hurdles that you've overcome?
Oh, well, there have been so many challenges. For me, especially, I don't have a business background. I have a nutrition background, I have a theater background. So for me, diving into the business world, there were so many things that I needed to learn and so many people I needed to lean on. I would say one of the biggest things that I learned how to do was delegate, and I have to allow myself to be good at what I'm good at. So I'm good at nutrition. I'm good at working with people. And I'm not good at designing a website. So, having other people do the things for me that they're good at just lets me do my job in a better way. So I think for me, that was the biggest hurdle to overcome, was that I can't do it all on my own, and I need to be able to lean on others.
I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes people think they'll see things on social media and they're like, oh, everything's going fine. And you're like, you're not behind the scenes. But what has it been like, some of the issues when women entrepreneurs faces searching for funding or leaning on mentors or finding other people in the business that they can talk to and rely on? Have you had any issues with that?
I think women are really great at being there for each other. And so I'm part of a few different groups, but also looking for mentors and looking for people that I can bounce business ideas off of was really important to me. My husband can only hear so much, and then he's just like, I don't know, do what you want to do. And so for me to be able to bounce ideas off other business owners, whether they're in the same business as me or not, it's great to get a different perspective and just some different ideas from women that are ahead of me in the business world or some that are just starting. I think it's important that we can all learn from each other and to be able to reach out to people at any time. And I think being part of lots of groups online or mastermind groups can really help with that.
I know hockey is an industry that's generally male. Sort of the leadership is male oriented, I should say. How have you been navigating working with some of the leaders in hockey or the arenas and people in the hockey industry to actually get them connected with your products?
Well, that was a bit of a hurdle as well, because like you say, it is slightly male dominated in the hockey world. So I found the easiest and best way for me was just to develop and nurture relationships with people. So I'm definitely in it for the long game. So it wasn't like, meet somebody, try to sell to them. For me, it's about creating those relationships that are going to last for a long time. If people initially aren't ready to work with me, that's completely fine. And I try and build a relationship on trust, and I really like to help others out. So if there's ways that I can help, I try and do that. And then we have that trust that is the core of our relationship. So then later on they can say, hey, I know somebody that might be able to help us with this. And for me, it's a slow growth that way, because it's, like I said, relationships take a long time to nurture. And eventually it does get to a point where people know you and like you and trust you. but I like that I'm growing in a way where word of mouth is my biggest advertising. And that way people are hearing about me because they've had a good experience, or because they like what I do, instead of just, crazy advertising, or, however else I would get the word out there. But I think for me, the best way to really grow my business and work with people who, have been doing this forever, and it's definitely a new idea in the hockey world, is to build those relationships.
You talk about your workshops and the products. Give us a little sense as to what parents would find in your snacks and sort of how you package that.
Absolutely. So what we provide is fresh fruit and allergy-friendly snacks. So we rotate the snacks. So it's things like bananas, apples, and oranges. I try and keep things as local as possible, to try and stimulate our own local economy. And I love supporting local farmers. It's tricky with bananas and oranges, but apples we definitely try and keep as local as possible. And we try and throw in some other fruits when we can. And then when it comes to the allergy friendly snacks, being a nutritionist, it's not just about, a nut free product. Definitely the sugar threshold has to stay within 6 grams for each unit or each snack. Also, I like them to contain some fiber and some protein. And again, I like to support Canadian businesses as much as possible. So there's a few different brands that I work with. And then even within those brands, there's only a few products that I like to use. But I don't have any personal products. I just curate what I find to be the best at the moment. I'm always looking for new snacks though.
I know you have a background as a nutritionist. Can you talk a little bit about the science and the research for young girls or young athletes, in sport, and their diets and what they should be focusing on and eating?
Absolutely. So with girls, what's really important to me is that we establish a healthy relationship with food. And so I always go back to the basics, where it's about eating real whole foods most of the time. I don't like to recommend supplements and protein powders and things like that, unless they really get to an elite athlete level where they need to supplement with extras. But for the most part, I work with a lot of youth where they really just need to learn the basics around carbohydrates and proteins and healthy fats. But I never bring numbers into the mix. I never get them to be counting anything, because I feel like every single person is a different, has a different body, is a different individual, is going to react differently to different foods. And so what I talk about mostly is really listening to your body, seeing how you feel, trying out different things and seeing how you react, in your sport. But we talk about food as fuel. We don't talk about food or weight in any way that could create that unhealthy relationship. So I try and keep it mostly to, how is this going to fuel your body, and how does this work differently from this type of food? And we keep things to that sort of level. But with girls especially, it's important to me that they do fuel themselves properly, and they do see food in that way, so that they always have a healthy relationship.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because there are a lot of articles on the body shaming and fat shaming, and girls thinking that they have to be on a very poor diet where they're not getting the nutrients or the right carbs that they get, because they're trying to fit into some sort of a beauty standard. So I love that healthy connection that you're trying to build with them on having a healthy relationship with food. Can you talk about maybe where you want to go next with hockey snacks? I know, as you mentioned before, most of your clients are from the hockey community. Are you thinking of expanding to other sports?
Absolutely. So we already are expanding to soccer and baseball teams. We're looking to expand to really any sort of physical activity that youth are in, because whether you're, in dance or lacrosse or gymnastics or hockey, it's all being active, and it all matters what you put in your body. And the younger that we teach these kids, how to fuel themselves properly, then we're going to create these healthy habits throughout their entire life.
That's amazing. So I always give people a chance to talk about where we can get in touch with you, through online or social. So if somebody wanted to find out more information about hockey snacks, where can they find you?
Well, we have a website, hockeysnacks.com, but as well, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us there. And as well, we're going to start making some videos where we're just sort of, giving parents and young athletes some really easy and healthy snacks that they can make. So you can stay tuned for our YouTube channel, but definitely Facebook and Instagram and our website.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.